We should all be focused on delusion maxing, and here's why. In this modern age, there's way too much certainty about the world. And when I say that, you may disagree immediately because of all the uncertain circumstances, and you would technically be correct within saying that within our geopolitical climate, there's a lot of uncertainty about what could happen, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the interdimensional workings and the warp. My problem with the world as we know it today is that not enough people are considering what's going on in the warp. What are the forces of chaos working against us, and what can we do to fight them off? Because even within the geopolitical strain of things, most of these people are cult practitioners, not going to name names, people who know what I'm talking about in this situation, can intuit who I'm talking about. These practitioners call upon the powers and the chaos gods of the warp, and for all we know, they may be just transferring in and out of it all the time, anyways. These people are shapeshifters, they are dark wizards, they are witches, they are vampires, they are dark draconic knights. And it's only a matter of time before the Paladin Order rises up and bashes our shield into these people. It's only a matter of time. And I've been waiting. But in order to do that, we have to make the warriors of the new age aware of the enemies that they're fighting. There can be no Imperium of Man if there is no Xenos. For the Emperor! Who are the Emperor's enemies? That is the question we must ask ourselves. And if we don't know that, then we can't really fight them off, can we? Now, I would love to live in a world where witches were flying through the sky on their brooms instead of hexing people on TikTok. Okay, we don't live in a very serious world when it comes to the unseen. So it often gets taken very unseriously. But I believe that can be changed. People don't read anymore. People are not scry maxing. They're not picking up tomes. I do think that reading was a serious part of why people were so inventive. And you could make the counterpoint that we had societies like Samaria and Babylon before there was much reading to be done, but I think they were probably just reading the downloads that they were getting from their gods or something. I don't think these people were ever just uneducated entirely, okay? These civilizations were insanely advanced, and whether it be through reading or just telling poetry, I mean even the Norse and the Slavs, they had runes, and runes are an alphabet within themselves. So it's not like these civilizations didn't have reading of some sort. You had hieroglyphics in Egypt. I believe Sumerians were some of the first people to write things down. So, reading is a big part of reigniting this whimsy into the world. There's lots of weird ideas you can sort of stumble across when you're reading, and they can really impact your life, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or philosophy. It can really impact it in a big way. So, I advise all of you who are watching this video to not just read a book, but develop a reading habit. And when I say that, I mean actually read what interests you. Don't go out and look for what people are telling you to read. Okay, I'm not even saying read the classics, although that is a very good place to start if you just don't have any directions pulling you. But I think if you are sort of tapped in to living this more whimsical life, you've probably heard of a couple works that you'd be generally interested in reading, but for one reason or another, you haven't. And that was me about 6 months ago. I wasn't doing much reading, and this year alone, I've read 4 different books, and I'm on my way to finishing 2 more. They don't have to be insanely big books, but the benefit of reading is really in the fact that it's a focused topic, and if it's not fiction, these are ideas that are presented to you that you probably either haven't seen before or you haven't had them framed in a light. And what that does is it allows you to sort of go through your own bit of cognitive dissonance and really examine your beliefs versus the author's beliefs and see where they align and see where they detract. But this video is not all about reading. I just think it's an important component of acknowledging that the world isn't so static. The world is operating on 2 planes and they're not separate from each other. Okay, we have the immaterium and we have Terra. Okay, we have Earth and we have the galaxy and we have the interdimensional aspect of it. And what I would really encourage the people watching this video to do is just try to see through the fabric of reality and sort of tear through the atoms with your perception. Go into a trance-like state. Maybe just sit still for a while and really just try to peel through and glimpse at the warp. You're not going to be able to see it for long because that's just not the way that our perception works. But I promise that if you look at things long enough, you'll be able to see it in glimpses. And once you've seen it, you'll probably get more keen on how to see it. You'll probably advance and develop that skill unintentionally, both unintentionally and intentionally. You will be able to see the warp more and more. One of the best places to see the warp is within public interactions, especially large scale public interactions, because there's a sort of unconsciousness that comes with being in a large scale group interaction. And if everybody is none the wiser, nobody is trying to see through the warp like you are, then you can see through the warp. You can look through the lens that these people aren't realizing. You can read rooms really well, and you can realize certain entities are influencing different interactions and micro interactions. This is all intuitive knowledge, okay? I don't have sources or proof for this, and I don't need them. Julius Evola wrote a book that I'm sure you've heard of if you've spent any time looking at alternative literature or even thought. He's huge in the vitalism circles right now. But he wrote a book called Revolt Against the Modern World. And I am going to be honest, I haven't read it all the way, but I'm into chapter 5. But that doesn't matter. I read the introduction to this book, and he has this section in it where he's talking about how he just doesn't care about soyence. And this is really where this idea came into full form. You know, I always had some general perception that things are really not as they seem. Things aren't just as people say they are. There's underlying mechanisms and interdimensional workings at play all the time. But Julius Evola just talks about in this passage how he just doesn't care about things regarded as historical science or modern knowledge. He even says that he doesn't deny the scholars in different fields and what may emerge as useful is still going to be unrefined material that is basically just for people who can't look at things any differently. So the whole passage here, I'll put it up on screen briefly because it's hard to kind of even understand what I'm talking about without that context. But he's essentially just saying that science is not used for the purpose of discovering absolute truth. And even at the end here, he says that rarely are these studies done casually. In other words, these aren't backyard science experiments. They have agendas and what they're wanting to find. They have funding. So essentially, Revolt Against the Modern World, from what I have gathered in my limited reading of it, is just about the fact that before recorded history, there was not soyence. Nobody looked at empiricism as their markers for what was real and what wasn't. Tradition carried us all. And although we can never go back to this fully, it seems like it has completely died within the modern context of living. And so I'm just making this video to call on to my schizo brethren and sisterhood, but probably not very likely, watching this video and telling you to go expose your normie friends to the warp. Go make them aware that it's not just a 9 to 5 office, it's not just a darkly, dimly lit bar. The spirit of Odin is in the is in the Midwestern tavern, okay? You may not know this, but Odin haunts the Germanic tribes. He's been doing it for a long, long time. Ever since the fall of Hyperborea, he's been tormenting us for our sins. And he especially doesn't like that most of us turn to Christianity. But if you just walk into a Midwestern bar, you can feel a palatable tension in the room. And that is odor. That is Odin. That is fury. That is frenzy. That is poetry. That is wisdom. All of that is in a Midwestern bar. Now, I don't know about Irish pubs. I haven't been to them, but I could assume it's somewhere along the same lines. It's probably a little bit more rowdy, if I had to guess. Or maybe I'm completely wrong, but I have been to German bars and I have been to just Midwestern Germanic bars, and they're all being haunted by Odin. Okay, fights break out at any moment, and there's a sort of camaraderie. Like, I've never been to a place out of state, a bar out of state, where there's as much of the idea of kin and group that a Midwest bar possesses. So it's things like this that you can relay to your normie friends that, hey, things are not really just as they seem, okay? There's more underlying at play, whether it's entities, whether it's deities. Okay, there's archons. Everybody knows about the archons trying to screw with you and mess up your day. Some people even have bosses who are archons and they just constantly want to loosh harvest you and just steal all your vril, ruin your day, so that they don't have to stand before their dark wizard ruler and answer for your crimes. But my point in saying all this is that the world is not just black and white. It is mystical. It is beyond comprehension. And if you don't realize that, and if your friends don't realize that, you're going to get spirit mogged by the warp. Okay? I don't know what else to tell you. Just be aware of the deities, the entities, the demons, the angels, the cryptids, the interdimensional alien elves, all of it. Be aware of all of it, and we can push forward to a world that is less drab. We can have architecture that reminds us that the world isn't so plain. We can move away from the millennial farmhouse aesthetic, and we can retake the universe, and we can restore the Paladin Order, and we can take all of the stars and do the Imperium of Man in real life, and then we can all sit around and just go back to being haunted by Odin and bars. So that's all I have for this video. If you agreed with anything, let me know in the comments what you agreed with. If you have anything that you disagreed with, I'd like to hear about that too. And if you like the video, please subscribe. I'll be uploading whatever I feel like on this channel. I'm a gamer. I'm a Soyjack Chud gamer. I am nutbag, as you could see from this video. I don't like to think about things at face value necessarily. So there's a lot of interesting things I feel like I want to talk about. Um, the one thing I've been thinking about making a video of is the weird esoteric like fantasy movies in the 2000s, like Zathura and The Neverending Story. Okay, just to name a few examples, those movies were weird, and I think they serve the purpose of like exposing Gen Z kids to what will eventually become when we move out of this sterile era. These will eventually become realities. There will be like gnomes and elves moving around in our plane of existence, and nobody will be able to even deny it. So that's all I have for this video. And I will see you next time.